This is part 45 of AngularJS tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss how to use optional URL parameters with UI router. Along the way, we'll also discuss programmatically activating a state using state service go method. If you recollect from one of our previous videos in this series, with ngRoute module, to make a parameter optional, we include a question mark at the end of the parameter name. With UI router, the parameters are optional by default, so there is nothing special that we have to do. So here is what we want to do. At the moment we are on students page, where we have the list of student names. On this page, we also have search functionality. Let's say, for example, within the name text box, I type letters MA, and then when I click the search button, we want to pass whatever we have typed in the search text box, as a URL parameter. And on the destination page, we want to display the list of all student names that start with letters MA. On the other hand, if I don't type anything within the search text box, and then when I click the search button, in this case we don't want to pass anything within the URL parameter, but on the destination page we want to display all the students. So here we are effectively making this name parameter optional. Let's see how to achieve this. The first step to do this is to define students search state. Notice we are defining a new state, and the name of the state is students search. When this state is active, this is the URL that we want to navigate to, /student search /name. So name is a URL parameter here. Now we are doing nothing special to make this name parameter optional. No question mark at the end. With ngRoute module, we would include a question mark at the end of the parameter name to make it optional. So let's define the student search state. So within our script.js file, notice we already have this when function, which is creating this route /student search /name. Let's uncomment this piece of code. Instead of using when method, I'm going to use state method. And the first parameter with state method is the name of the state. The name of the state is going to be student search, and when this state is active, this is the URL that we want to navigate to, /student search /name. Name is the URL parameter. Now we don't have to do anything special to make this optional, so I'm going to remove that question mark at the end of the parameter name. So that's our first step, define student search state. The second step is to modify student search function that gets called when the search button is clicked. Now if you look at where we have the search interface, this is present on the students page. So the student search function is present in students controller function. So we have to modify that student search function. So notice, into the students controller function, we are already injecting the state service, and then we are using the go method of the state service to activate student search state that we have created in step 1 programmatically. So the name of the state that we have created is student search, so that's the state that we want to activate when we click the search button, and we are doing that programmatically by using go method of the state service. But if you look at the student search state, it also has a URL parameter. That means we also have to supply a value for that parameter when we are activating that state, and that's what we are doing here. We are passing a JavaScript object. It has got a property, and look at the name of the property. It matches the name of the URL parameter name, and then the value for that parameter is coming from the view model. So whatever we type in the name text box here will be available on the view model. So we are retrieving that value and passing it to the name property, which gets passed to the student search state. So let's do that now. So the student search function should be in our students controller function. We are already injecting the state service. So what we want to do here is use the state service go method and activate students search state, and we also have to pass the value for name parameter, which is available on the view model object. That's our second step. And the final step is to modify student's search controller function to retrieve the name URL parameter value. To do that, we're going to make use of state params service. So here we are checking, is there a value for name parameter? If that's the case, then we are calling get students by name web method, and then we are passing the value for name parameter, for that web method. And how are we retrieving the name parameter value? Using our state param servers. If we have not supplied a value for the name URL parameter, then it's going to come into the else block where we are invoking get all students web service method, which is going to return us all the students. So let's make this final change. So we already have student search controller function, but this is commented, so I'm going to uncomment this and then inject state params service instead of route params, and then we are going to use that service to check if we have passed a value for the name URL parameter. If that's the case, then we want to call this web service method get student by name, and then we want to supply the value for the name parameter that this web method has, which is going to return only the student names that start with whatever value we have passed. Else it's going to come into this block and it's going to call get all students web method, which is going to return us all the students. So let's save all these changes and let's reload this page. So now let's type, for example, letters MA, and when I click search, look at that, it's passed as part of the URL. On the destination page, we see only the student names that start with letters MA. On the other hand, if we don't type anything, and then when we click the search button, look at that, within the URL we are not passing anything, but then on the destination page we see the list of all student names. So effectively we have made that name parameter optional. And we don't have to do anything special to make that name parameter optional. Parameters are optional by default with UI router, whereas with ngRoute module you have to include a question mark at the end of the parameter name to make it optional. Thank you for listening and have a great day.